Hey, welcome to Exposition. Today, again, something a little different.
Yay!
We have guest Karisa DeLay,
Woohoo!
who is a hairstylist by day and author and artist by evening. So,
Salon owner.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so stay tuned. Welcome to Exposition.
Hello. How are we today?
Valerie, Thomas, Mike
Hi.
Thompson. Anything new at the artisan shop and studio?
Well, yes, we are going to be putting in a community garden next to the building.
That is going?
It's going
Okay,
for
I wasn't sure if it was on hold.
It is not on hold, and we will be having planting day on April 20th, which is a Saturday. And anytime.
What are you planting on 420?
Well, go to your beeswax, by the way. Just kidding.
Something green.
Yes.
Something green.
Yes. Terrifying. Terrifying. No, legal farming, produce, fruiting, flowering plants.
Okay.
Thank you. That we all can enjoy legally. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Very good.
Yes. And lots of classes. Keep your eye on the schedule.
And I think you got a
and
blacksmithing class coming up with
we
one of our
on 420.
past
Yes.
guests the same day.
It got moved.
It
Oh,
got
no,
moved.
it didn't. Oh,
Okay.
it got moved to the beginning of May.
Okay.
But we will be planting the 20th, yes, and all our regular classes and many more. And we are now satelliting out to the local wineries, like we did with Twisted Vine last year. And we will be going to OSR this year with Twisted Vine. And just stay tuned to our schedules.
Okay.
Hope to see you.
So let's get to our guest, Karisa DeLay. Not day.
Karisa DeLay.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you guys?
Without delay.
Good.
Without delay.
Yes. Oh, you did. That's so good. Okay.
All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here.
Yes.
I took 35. No, I'm kidding.
From Jackson, Ohio, by the way.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. As far as where I got to where I am with as far as being an author and being an artist,
Sure.
The whole shebang.
whole shebang. I've been an artist since I was born. I've always been able to draw and paint. But as far as like after high school, I had a full ride scholarship to art school and
Oh my goodness.
didn't stay. It wasn't where I wanted to be, but I didn't want to be one of those people that was told what to do with my talent.
I understand.
But you didn't quit because you didn't have the talent.
I didn't quit because I didn't have the talent, because I didn't get a
So
full
you were
ride.
doing okay in school.
Yeah, it was the fact that I did not want to be there in the first place. I never wanted to be an artist by trade. I wanted that
Right.
to be a hobby versus an actual paid career.
Right.
So I left there, went to Shawnee, and wanted to study mathematics, and I wanted to study exobiology. So
Wow.
Yeah.
That is just the spectrum.
So
of-
did
Right?
you study cutting hair or?
So you have to study cutting hair. You have to go to school for that.
Okay.
But when I was about 19, I got pregnant with my daughter and decided that I didn't want to be part of the system, and decided to go further myself so I can make some money and make it as a single mom. So I did that, and then I own my own salon now.
Yay.
But I have the salon in Jackson that also houses an art gallery that houses a lot of the local artists there with some of their pieces, whether it's jewelry, fragrances, photography, or paintings, or anything that we feel like even writing is considered an art form.
That is,
So giving them a
yes.
space to put their stuff out there, to put themselves out there.
We are sisters in
Right.
our
Right?
missions, aren't
Exactly. Because someone has to be there for them.
Yes.
You can't have 1,000 artists and 1,000 art shops. So
No,
you gotta have a place
exactly.
for them to land. So that's what our gallery is for. And then I have the salon, like he said, by day. I do hair, sometimes into the night. Depends on the hours of the day.
You're busy.
Right. And then I spend my brain time researching and studying the things I like to write about.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
So what do you like to write about?
Everything that umbrellas.
Not teen stories.
Well, so my first two fiction novels would be considered young adult,
Okay.
adult
That's
fiction.
nice.
But that was just housing a fiction story that also encased this whole entire, kind of what my new book is, this nonfiction is. I took all the factual stuff out and put it into this nonfiction book. So anything,
nonfiction.
right. And it houses the things that, like I said, embody who I am and what I like to talk about on a daily basis, or what I like to think about in my head when nobody's listening.
Yes, true you.
Right. So
Yes.
that's pretty much what this book is about.
That's
So,
empowering.
okay, so the book is Before the World Was Lost, A Journey to Eden.
Yes.
So you can find this at Amazon and,
And
Barnes
Amazon,
and Noble.
Barnes and Noble, and at the local gallery in Jackson. We carry them as well, of course.
Not a very long read.
Nope, 158 pages.
I
but-
love that kind.
And the
Yeah.
chapters are short, and there's lots of pictures to
Oh,
explain.
that's better.
Yes. So I can get, not everybody is auditory, not everybody is, some people are visual, sometimes people are both. So I kind of try to make this to where everybody can understand it.
Well, it
Appeals
it's-
to everyone.
Okay,
Correct.
shortly, what is this about?
If you could umbrella everything that God has put forth out there,
Yes.
this encompasses everything. Science, religion, ufology, spirituality, ghost hunting, anything that you would think, okay, if I believe in ghosts, how does that fall under God's world?
Yes.
If I believe in quantum physics, how does that fit into God's world? If I
Yes.
believe in a theoretical science that Tesla came up with, how does that fit into God's world? This is the beginning of a volume series. So this is kind of breaking the ice to understand where we're going with things.
Wow.
So I'm breaking it down for people, kind of like the neutral party between this side and this side, between science and religion.
Yes.
So
So you overlap all these different theories
Correct.
on top of each other and see where all the
Correct.
things line up.
Correct. I am a Christian. I believe in the Bible, but I also know there's other information out there that if it is all God's world, then there is pieces that are correct in every facet.
Right.
So if you start overlapping that, you start to come out with a bigger picture.
Yes.
Like the flood, for example. The flood, there's over 2,000 versions of the flood story from different religions. Did you know that?
I did not
No.
know that.
There's so many versions, but when you start overlapping them, you start seeing there's a boat in the majority of them. You see that only 7% of them have a rainbow. You see that a lot of them talk about birds being, cast out to bring branches back.
So you think
there's-
it's the same boat or lots of different boats?
I mean, that's the difference whether you think it's a localized flood or whether you think it is a global flood.
Right.
I mean, there's evidence that there was water rising across the world. Archaeology has seen that and is starting to see that even more prevalent in their findings, that there was something that happened with a great deluge. There was a huge flood. Whether it was localized or worldwide, that's completely up to you to decide. Whether it covered the entire mountainscape or just the hillsides, that's for you to decide. That's where faith comes in.
Yes.
What I'm showing is that there is evidence of where things happened and where things started, like creation as far as like the Garden of Eden. This particular book talks about the Garden of Eden, goes into the
Can you
floods.
say where that's at?
In the
or
book,
do
it's
you
going to take
think?
you to the North America.
It's
gonna-
in North America, you say?
Yes, somewhere. I mean, as far as actual location, that's hidden. That's something that I can't say, but I can show you where the four rivers are using science and other religions and other things that we kind of skip over as just poppycock, to be actual, there's something to this. There's a correlation.
Wow. That's
So it's like
connecting the
Pittsburgh.
dots.
Pittsburgh.
You're like Pittsburgh.
Well, there's
Isn't that
three
where there's a
rivers
black
there.
hole there?
There's a black hole in Pittsburgh?
Terrifying.
Yeah, like Roethlisberger. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, I'm a Browns fan, so you mentioned Pittsburgh. I'm like, what are we talking about? Why are we talking about that black hole?
Rivers converging,
Yeah.
So rivers converging. So when you think of rivers, you're thinking of what we currently know as rivers. But the world at one point was one landmass.
Right.
Okay.
Is that
Yes.
Pangea?
Right, Pangea. So, and a lot of people are looking for the Garden of Eden in Mesopotamia. Why? Because there is a Euphrates and a Tigris. Right? The rivers are there. But just like when you set up a colony or a new city, there is a high street and a main street. So when you start that city, you're putting the two streets that you remember exist. So it's just like when Noah and his family came off the boat or, set up camp. There are two rivers there. Well, this one's the Tigris and this one's the Euphrates. But that's why we can't find the other two, because these are not the original Tigris and Euphrates. So if you take it back to where the original four were, I show in the book where there is actual land that encompasses a bunch of where we find the gold today. There is a river that encompasses that, just like the Bible describes.
Wow.
So would you say that Eden existed at the time of Pangea then, or no?
Well, it would make sense. Yeah, it would make sense, because the scriptures talk about when the land divided, even the and talking about the generation of Peleg, when the nations divided. There's all kinds of different
So
things.
that's not like a
clues.
long time ago. That's a long time ago.
Maybe. Well, it depends on how you look at it. So something else I talk about, and this is a new theory that I have, that I haven't done 100% of the research, but it's just a theory that I need to connect, is the magnetic north theories of how when it flips poles and how the environments change with earthquakes, and even when it's talking about Noah and the springs coming forth in the bottom, we know that the world was opening up. We know that there was a mass amount of earthquaking. So we can watch an instant, like one day, the land is there, and then there's an earthquake, there's this huge sinkhole. So if this was going on for 40 days and 40 nights, who knows where the continents went in that time frame?
Right.
We have not seen that to witness that, to measure that data. We can only go with what we have.
So you're not thinking that possibly or it's not confirmed that you would think that the continent's divided within like 40 days instead of like millions of years?
The continental drift itself is still a theory. There's no law to continental theory. We still think like the whole shifting of the continents is still theoretical, because we've not actually went down to see what's there. It's all still theoretical. Like, this is what it looks like. We don't even know exactly what the ocean floor looks like. We're just guessing. We don't even know what's at the center of the universe. We're still guessing based on the data that we're getting back, and we're having amazing technology to be able to see what the ocean floor looks like, but we don't have all the 100% data to say exactly what everything looks like.
Right.
We don't, when an earthquake happens, we don't know if there's actually this continental drift thing that's sitting on top of something that's completely hollow, or if there's something that's solid. We're just guessing. So when we're still guessing, that means it's open for other theories.
So you hit on Atlantis or Mu,
No, I don't really talk about Atlantis. I mean, those are different. Like this lost city of Atlantis and things like that. I mean, those types of places are more, whether they existed or not. I mean, I focus more on scriptural-based places for my passion, but it doesn't mean that someone couldn't find it based on some of these theories.
Or Mu, Lemuria?
Still not on my top 10 list.
Okay. Just within the continents dividing and things changing.
Right. So for me, my passion since I was very young has always been the scriptures. It's always been the stories that God has put out there for us that we tend to question, do these places exist? So for me, I feel like whether you're a science-based person or you're a religious-based person, your theories only can go so far before you have to rely on faith. Science, their faith has been on the Big Bang Theory or on this dense coil or center point in the beginning, based on the speed of light and how things happened. Except for now we have theoretical science that says there was something faster than speed of light, which can put a whole dent in what they theorize. So then it still comes back to the fact that God said, and that hasn't changed. So my theory has always been God never changed. God proves God. Now let's just show how science has uncovered it.
Right. Like evolution, it irritates me that everybody always goes to we didn't come from monkeys. Well, so whether you believe that or not, evolution happens.
Evolution happens in a state of adaptation.
Right.
I totally believe that we adapt. I mean, we see insects adapt. That's why our insect sprays change on a yearly basis, because they are adapting. We adapt. Our blood, like the things inside of our blood, change. That's what they test. That's why if you were to test someone's blood from back then to now, you wouldn't have the same antibodies. I know this only because my husband works in the medical field, and that's the same thing with people that are doing DNA research right now. They're starting to gear towards where they're like, it's starting to look like we may have actually came from two humans. And which makes sense. And you can prove that humans came from two people with a certain each one had a certain type of blood type, had a certain type of melanin in their body, to where you can get all these different races of people. I mean, the thing is, science is just showing us that what God said originally is true.
Right, confirms.
Just
Science can
confirming it.
confirm it.
Right. But as far as when you mentioned evolution, I always find it funny. I'm like, have you ever had you know, went to a buffet and you have chicken cacciatore, chicken teriyaki, and then you have chicken Alfredo. They all have chicken in them, but there's 3 separate dishes. Just because a chimpanzee or an orangutan have very similar DNA to me doesn't mean that we're the same thing. We just have the same ingredients that God used off his spice rack.
Yes.
And I'm like, otherwise I would be, I think, what, is it like 60% related to a fruit fly or something?
Yes.
I can't remember the percentage, but it's like, I even put it in the book that we would be even related to bananas, and I don't see any bananas in my house getting up and walking away.
Well, I don't know. There's a few people.
Well, you know, and that's, well, that brings me to
Haven't been to my house. So
that brings me to the fact that when people look at it, they're taking exactly what man has said, just like they do the Bible. They hear what their preacher's telling them, and they're not searching it out themselves. They're taking what scientists are telling them, like, oh, it's true. They're taking what the preacher says, and like, oh, it's true, which is great for your spirituality, but not for when it comes to finding out for yourself. Read the books, you know, read the stuff that's out there. God has these breadcrumbs for all of us to be able to find and put together.
So there's another thing you're interested in.
There's lots of things.
Yes.
UFOs.
Was it?
UFOs.
Oh, yes.
Ooh,
Yes.
So cool.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the thing.
Is this covering that? Or?
This does cover UFOs.
Okay.
I use the data from MUFON. I use the raw data that they put out, you know, they've had since the 60s. They keep track of, you know, the UFOs that have been out in the world. When someone makes a claim that they've seen a UFO, it has a lot. I mean, and the thing is, we live on a planet, round, by the way, it's not flat. We live on a round planet. Let's not even go there. We're not going to talk about no flat planets. Anyways.
Yeah, like why would this be the only flat planet of everything that we can see?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I'm just waiting for somebody to journey across Antarctica to finally be like, you know what, I didn't fall off.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which, if they knew anything about the way things work, you wouldn't fall off if the Earth was flat. You'd actually be able to walk right off of it and not fall off because of the gravitational pull.
Yes.
But that's neither here nor there. Yes, you wouldn't float into outer space. We can see planets being born with telescope technology that we have now. We can see these amazing other universes out there, or not universes, but galaxies out there inside our own universe. We see all these things, but we are so headstrong and so prideful that we think that God would only create us, and that's the only thing he had time for.
Right.
So, I mean, it makes no sense to me that we would be the only ones, especially as dysfunctional as we are. There has to be something out there.
Even by chance.
Teach us.
Even by chance.
Right.
The chance is overwhelmingly that we're not alone.
Right. I feel that, and I put that in there, a little bit about some of the things that the Bible tells us about other worlds and things like that. It's very, very minimal. There's more actual scripture based on like the afterlife because, of course, the scriptures were based on our salvation. So that was the focal point, was to make sure that the people understand how to return back to God, or, you know, to get to heaven. So
everybody always wants to know what happens when you die.
Everybody wants to know that. But once you start, see, I have this, I mean, for me, I understood it visually as a child because at 8 years old, I saw ghosts walk down the hallway at a friend's house. So I'm like, okay, there has to be an answer for this. Yeah. So that's kind of like where God has led me this whole time, is like putting these little things in my path so I can see it for myself. So I'm not a skeptic and be like, oh, well, I've never seen it, but I kind of believe it. It's like, no, I visualized this. I wasn't on LSD. I know what I was seeing.
Yes.
So with that, I've taken that over the years. I've studied the Bible, studied quantum physics, tried to study as much as I possibly can. No, I don't have an education in, you know, astrophysics, but I can pick up a book just like the other person, and I'm just as, you know, able to be educated as the first person who wrote a textbook.
Of course.
So just because you have that doesn't mean you don't understand it.
Exactly.
And I'm just trying to put it out there that way.
So are you into the multi-dimensions?
Oh yeah, so I definitely
that's where I think, you know, like a ghost would go to another
Well,
dimension.
it has a lot to do with frequencies. When you start talking about that, we all vibrate. You know, we all have a certain frequency that we vibrate to. Just like a tuning fork, when you hit tuning fork, it will only vibrate to the tuning fork that matches its frequency. The same thing, like if you change that frequency, there's potential that thing could disappear. So the same thing with ghosts. I feel like our body is housed with our physical and our spiritual, and at some point when we die, that spiritual separates and it goes to a different vibration. And that's why some people can tap into that vibration, or in certain places, like I mentioned in the book, there's some kind of energy that is weakening that state to where we can see those things. We can see those entities or those paranormal things more frequently.
And some of us are more in tune to that.
I do think some people are more in tune to that.
I think everybody might be
have the capability. Correct.
But
You think, oh, that was nothing.
yeah, it was just the wind blowing my
I've
couch over.
And I've seen people who were skeptics change their mind. And not because I've changed their mind, but because the stories that they, like I did not believe in this. Our contractor didn't believe in ghosts, and when we were having our salon remodel, we had heard stuff in there, and the Masonic temple, the Masons have told us, oh, it's haunted. And we're like, we've heard things, whatever. But our actual contractor had an experience that he called his wife and said, I'm bolting this door shut. On our basement, he's like, not doing it. So,
you mean he's just not going there, or he's sealing whatever
no,
in
something
there?
he took an electrical cord out of his hand, like literally it wasn't stuck, it was literally pulled it out of his hand when he was trying to pull it through one of the wires. And I mean, it was just funny because before that he was a skeptic. He's like, you can explain any of those movements. Oh, you can explain that.
Right. Yeah.
But there are some things you just can't explain. So then you have to say, okay, God, how does this work? How does this work?
That mean?
Guide me to how this works. So, and everything I've done, I mean, artistically, God gave me that talent. So I try to share that talent not only with other people. I help people as much as I possibly can with the gallery. I have it open to people that also have God-given talents, so they can have that as an out.
Thank you for that.
Well, and you do the same thing. That's we have that passion to help others.
Yeah, let's put up a few pictures of your work and some other people's work.
This is the picture of the entry to the gallery. The gallery is to the left there.
Where?
This is in downtown Jackson on Pearl Street, in the bottom of the Masonic Temple. There's our logo. And we, like I said,
That's awesome.
Thank you. And then we have, there's the salon to the right. And it does the building actually is pretty large, so this is just the front part. It goes into several other rooms towards the back in that door. And we have artists that have, that make fragrances, jewelry, pottery. You can see one of our pottery artists there, Jenny Paul. And Debbie Shoemate, she does some of our jewelry work. I have a little bit of jewelry there, but mine is more just like bracelets and stuff, just for fun.
I can't wait to see this.
So the picture sideways, not the floor, so you can actually walk in there.
Yes, you can walk in. Yeah, the picture, it is not on some kind of weird Doctor Who angle. And this is one of our artists. This is one of our watercolors, Debbie Shoemate. She's super talented.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, she's very talented. And this is this is a 6-foot tall piece that we have it's actually on one of the walls that we have hanging out. Yeah.
It's so whimsical.
The majority of it I did with my fingers. I usually paint with my fingers. This one I did with my fingers. This one is just a fun piece that I did real quick. This is another one of our walls that houses some of the photography that we have, and then I have some of the, like one of the doctors in town, she has one of the pieces here.
Oh my goodness.
And we have people who locally make their own body lotions and stuff.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And then this is my book, of course. You can get this on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com.
You should be so proud.
Thank
We're
you.
so proud to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be invited. It's been a fun day.
It's been great. I'm
So
excited to finally meet you. It's been years.
So Journey to Eden.
Yes.
Where do we go from here? You said this is part of a larger series.
Right. So when I wrote this, I started the fiction series, the 2 books, and the main character eventually they end up to Eden for a purpose. And when this was all said and done, my publisher mentioned, which I'm with Vendera Publishing, and he's like, you need to pull this stuff out and make it into a separate thing. And I was like, okay. So I sent the information out to a couple people, and they were super interested, and they're like, you're really onto something. People who've been in the industry of like chasing UFOs for years.
Yes.
And they're like, no one has put this together. So it'd be really nice if you put this into a nonfiction book, and so we can get this out there.
Yes,
and
please.
so that started that journey. And so I did this, this one is only 158 pages because I didn't want to overwhelm people.
That's
Sometimes when
good.
you have a smaller book, it's easier to pick up and go.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So we're going to make these into like, kind of a volume series where we can touch some of the stuff that's in here and like elaborate more. Like I have a YouTube channel we're getting ready to start, And it touched on one of the things I talked about in here, which was Tesla's torsion field energy and how it relates to prayer. And we're gonna put that out on YouTube on the umbrella effect. So the umbrella is everything that, you know, for God and His world. So we're going to expound more on magnetic north, you know, more on the torsion energy, get a little bit into discussing some other things that are talked about in the scriptures that are mysteries, like, you know, who was talking at the meeting with the devil and God during the first chapter in Job, all that kind of cool stuff that people just don't tend to think about. We look over when we're just seeking salvation and not the other stuff.
That's what I need.
Okay, so this is the base, and then you expand
Connect
out
the
on
dots.
things.
Yes, yes. This is the project that's going to branch out.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
You
I
start
look
with this
forward
book,
to
and
it.
it's like, but wait, there's more.
Yes. Well, you know, the people that I've read
can't-
it. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just can't wait because I need like little bites at a time, and I need it explained, and I need to be able to, you know, process that in little bites.
And I didn't want to overwhelm people because you can take things then and make it. That's why when someone that is a Christian typically looks at the field of science, they're like, oh, that's too overwhelming. I think I need to step back.
Yeah.
And they don't want to digest that. So I'm here to digest it and like put it out in a simple recipe for you.
Thank you.
So
As best I can, as best I can.
Yes.
And with the pictures, it makes it easier to digest. You can like
Right.
visualize
I love
everything.
pictures.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well,
and
you need pictures.
and
I
there's
think.
I'm such a child. I love
No,
But you know, that's the
you
thing.
do
I'm a
need
visual
it.
and an auditory.
visual.
So, you know, sometimes like when I'm explaining carbon 14, I had to put visual because I could explain the science, but you're like, huh?
Yeah.
What? So I have some diagrams in there for people. And this book is not just on me. I did collaborate with some archaeologists from Australia, Bosnia, and an engineer who is pretty much the known expert on the Tesla energy.
Wow.
So yeah, I just kind of collaborated with them and made sure some mathematicians checked my math to make sure that I wasn't just putting stuff out there.
That is incredible.
Thank you.
You're amazing.
Oh, thank you. You are too.
No,
You're doing a great job.
you are. You are. You're beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
All right. So if you want to find your studio
We're in downtown
or get a
Jackson.
little haircut or, you know,
Yeah.
a little
Dreads.
dreads.
Yeah,
You do
like
dreads?
Sharina
I'm not
Weatherholt.
done dreads, but I have some stylists, even if they're at my salon, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
Could even help in that direction. And that's another thing. I'm not just pushing everyone in my salon. I'm all about networking.
Right.
Yes, please.
So where do you find you and
You can go to
Your
KarisaDeLay.com for
Okay.
anything that pertains to my books. And you can go to the local salon and spa for our salon. And you can go to the localgallery.com for anything with a gallery.
Great.
and you're in
hopefully-
Jackson, Ohio on what street?
Pearl Street.
Pearl Street.
Yep.
And a book signing at the shop on
May
May 7th.
Yes.
And that's 5:30 to 7:30. 5 to 7. And hopefully we'll get your books in the shop, please.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah,
I have some out.
and
I
your
brought some
art.
for you. Yeah.
Yay.
Yep.
Oh, good.
Sounds good.
Awesome. We're so
Okay.
excited.
Our time is up, and we'd like to thank you all and thank Karisa
Very
Thank
once
welcome.
again,
Thank you.
and thank everyone for watching. We'll see you again next time on Exposition.